All right, guys, thanks so much for listening to another episode of the CX Chronicles podcast. This is a mini today, guys. We are here at Customer Contact Week in Las Vegas, and I found my friend Kristi Faltorusso walking around. I said, Kristi, you're coming into the content studio, and we are going to rap for a little bit. So say hello to CX Nation.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. I can't believe that we're doing this live. I'm like pretty pumped.
100% agree. And guys, when there was a short list of people that I knew were like friends of CXC, and Kristi was one of them, and I was just excited to number one just catch up with some of our other friends that are here that are doing similar things. Kristi is literally one of the OGs in our space. She's done so much incredible content. She's been all over the damn world doing this type of work for the last several years. So pumped to kind of just finally get to meet you in person. It's like we've had this like 2-year relationship from like many of us on Zoom, just on Zoom, right? Yep. But it's good to finally see you in person.
I know. I was so excited. Although, it was so cool. Is like that moment where I was like, you just see each other in person. You're like, I know you.
Yeah, I know.
Like it didn't even take a minute to like adjust and be like, who is that? Like, no, it was awesome.
It is. So, okay, number one, what is your day one thoughts? We're at day two, but like this is the big part of day one. We've gotten a bunch of speakers, presenters. We've got the whole floor is open now, so we've gotten a chance to go and see all the different people that have showed up to show their willies and their wares in the customer experience space. What are some of your thoughts and just some of your general ideas around sort of what you're seeing?
So AI is clearly dominating across the board. What I will say about that, though, is the general theme here is everyone is talking theoretically because no one really has proof yet.
Totally.
So we're hearing a lot about, there's a lot of great ideas. There's a lot of great direction. There's fantastic strategies being kind of talked about. But I think what we lack right now is the proof and the evidence that these things are actually going to manifest and do the things that we anticipate that they will.
Totally agree.
So I think a year from now, we come back here, we're going to hopefully see a lot more case studies about how people executed against that. But I think right now, a lot of great ideas, a lot of great visions. I'm really interested to see what the future holds still.
I totally agree with you. I have this client that I'm working with right now, Kristi, the full candor. Whenever the AI conversation comes up, he goes, oh, Adrian, he goes, look, I understand that AI is important, but I'm about actual intelligence. And I love that because I agree completely with what you're talking about, where guys, we have so many incredible purveyors out there that are building technology, building services, building all these different facets to dive into what Kristi's talking about with this whole AI movement. But like at the end of the day, we'll see sort of what the stuff looks like. And it's almost even hard to hear through some of the different pitches out of the floor around like what does some of these things really mean and how does it impact your customer experience. I do hear a lot of good talks on the employee experience side, but I think like jury's still out in terms of how we're actually going to leverage
it's really interesting because the other thing that I think thematically I'm seeing pop up is a lot about this, like create great employee experiences because that's going to translate to good customer experiences, which again, this isn't new content. Like we've known that. Like you have happy people, they're going to be happy serving others.
Absolutely.
And so there is a lot of interesting discussion around not only that as a theme, but then also how does AI support that? Like how do we reduce the busy work for folks? How do we enable them to use their EQ while AI is driving the IQ? And so there's a lot of that push-pull. And so I'd be really interested, again, I want to see how it manifests. Now, I think there's also a lot of FUD because there are people who are like, is AI going to displace me?
I totally agree.
And there's a lot of uncertainty. And so what's interesting is in the B2B space, I'm not hearing as much fear, but when you hear it translated through the contact centers and the call centers, because of how scripted their jobs are, you can definitely see where it's like you can fear the robot, right? Because it's like if you're not allowing them to do the human thing and drive things the way they need to based off of conversations and actions and things like that, we're relying on these bots. It's super clear why they'd be scared. They'd be scared.
Agree.
So
Kristi, we had John Spottiswood, COO and Chief Data Officer at Jerry, in here earlier doing a recording, and he was talking about some of their amazing technology that they've produced and that they've been distributing over these last couple of years with their customer base at Jerry. But the one thing that he did such a brilliant job of talking about was kind of what you're getting into, where like most of the AI or the generative AI disruption that they're doing, it's actually to make a much smaller number of humans do what otherwise even 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years ago would have taken a bunch of guys and gals to be able to do the same amount of work, the same amount of tickets, the same. So like when you hear about it that way and you hear leaders and executives talking about it that way, not gonna lie, it feels pretty damn good. When you hear about it in like these blanket statements and some of these generalities, and then we're still talking about this technical stuff that I don't really know who knows what they're really talking about and what they don't anyway. And I feel like most of us probably feel that way, but like that's when it feels a little bit better, where it's about to get to that great CX, you're actually just improving the employee experience and you're making things. And what I said to John when he brought that example, I was like, John, I'm thinking about like early on in my career, like banging out a bunch of customer phone calls, and like think about the days when like there's certain type of searches or there's certain type of like inbounds that were just like they required a couple extra searches, or you had to pull up a couple extra screens, and so that unless you were good, you had to give the gap like you and myself here. You didn't always that you had some dead airspace there, and that could create customer consternation or kind of make you feel weird. But like, I think it's going to be interesting to see sort of how all this unfolds. And I agree with you. The next year or so, we're going to see how companies are really leveraging some of this type of technology.
Absolutely, and I think what we got to see is I would like to see AI kind of manifest itself more through like helping people be more productive, proactive, creating more personalized content, right? So I think those are the types of experiences we should see AI lend itself to. I don't want to see it kind of this generalized experience, because I will tell you, and I'm sure you've used a lot of technology, I know that I have, I recently had a B2B experience where I got stuck in a chat bot conversation with myself for 30 minutes and then walked away without an answer, without a solution, just completely frustrated. And I was stuck in a subscription, so I couldn't cancel, but if I could have in that moment, I would have been like, I'm done with you.
Yeah, totally.
You can't help me. And so that is my big fear. And I mean, listen, on the flip side, you definitely have some companies who are getting it right.
Totally.
I also
100%.
had a very great experience recently, and I'll say the good experience, but it was Best Buy.
Okay.
And I had some questions about, I was purchasing something, I had some questions, started with a chatbot experience, and then eventually you could tell like a human intervened. All the way through, the end result was them sending me a text link with the items that we agreed to in my cart, ready for checkout.
Right.
So not only did they solve what I asked them to solve, it resulted in revenue for them because I made the purchase. Whereas in the other experience, I got stuck and I would have canceled it. So it's very clear that these things will create different experiences
100%.
for folks that will either make or break your business.
Big time. Somebody said it earlier today, Kristi, but I don't remember if it was one of the speakers earlier today or if it was somebody that was in here earlier recording some episodes with us. But the notion of you at a minimum have got to let people out, meaning if they don't want to engage in the hot atmosphere, you almost need to like make like a button that they can slam on eject or slam on shift medium, whatever the hell you want to call it. But like I talk about like customer preferred communication mediums on a regular basis. Like guys, there's going to be some people out there that are totally down and think that bots are the dopest thing, since sliced bread. Other people, hate to say it, my mom and dad, they're going to want to talk on the telephone, or they're still going to want to be able to go to an email, or so it's just like things like that I think we need to be thinking. So super cool stuff there. So question for you, I guess, highlights of today. Are there a few things that come to mind that you've been the most intrigued by, the most interested in outside of the AI, just the pure gravitas about everyone out there is talking about AI? Are there like anybody that you saw that was speaking and presenting today, or any of the solutions providers out there that kind of wowed you or that made you really like stop for a second and be like, that is extremely dope?
So I did stop by a lot of the folks in the expo hall, and I did start just asking random people. I'm like, tell me about the AI that your product is, right? Like just to like stump people.
Show me your code.
Right. Just to make people uncomfortable just for a moment, and then I would go into like normal conversation.
That's the way to do it.
There's really fascinating technology in this space, which I think is going to be very disruptive. Again, if they're leaning into modernization the way that they should and could, it'll definitely lend very well to their business. I think a high for me though was Angie from, was it Boom Chicka Pop? Listen, I love a hero story, and like to hear where they started in like Minnesota in their garage with popcorn as like an interest. It's like, first of all, if my husband ever came to me and said, well, we're gonna build an empire around popcorn, I would literally throw the bag of popcorn at his face and tell him to get out of my face. Like, no. So I love that, like, it was just this story of like community and giving back and how they built their brand. Honestly, I left there so inspired, and I kind of felt empowered. Like, I'm gonna go make the next popcorn and go figure that out.
Or figure out what your version of that popcorn is.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, I'm not a big popcorn gal, but like, yes. No, I love the story. And then the other thing that really resonated with me while she was talking was about how she really anchored on the community. And she talked about not only giving back to their community, whether it was time or resources. They made tons of donations to the University of Minnesota.
Awesome.
They're funding new programs, but just really investing in who their customers are and their real fans, and bringing them into the brand and kind of building around that. They also talked extensively about how they really invested in their people and taking care of their people. And like, I don't feel like there's enough leaders out there of really successful organizations who talk about them caring, like such deep care for the people and their success, not their own.
Totally.
So I don't know, I left there and I was like, whew,
That's
okay.
super cool.
So it was a great story, and I will definitely continue to buy. I will continue, because I'm already a customer, I will continue to buy.
I love
their
it.
popcorn.
And I think you're spot on. We're just like, it is rare that you find an executive or customer-focused business leader that actually buys into both the CX and the EX part of the game.
Right.
Even though, it's, like you said, every one of us knows that, like, you're going to get great service if you've got incredible guys and gals that are taken care of, properly educated and supported. They've got all the tools, the technology, the training, the coaching, the services required to make them want to show up to work every day. Weird, imagine that. Like liking your job and wanting to, like, you're going to take great care of customers that way, right?
Correct.
So that is awesome. And okay, before we wrap up and I'll let you go, what are you hearing some of the buzzing or the yammering about day one? Is there anything that you're hearing from some of your conversations or just from people that you're bumping into around why they're here or what brought them to CCW this week? Like, is it tools? Is it all about AI? Is it team stuff? Like, what else are you hearing kind of out there on the floor that like people are trying to learn more about or trying to figure out or trying to buy?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. People are being tasked with these like Herculean like efforts to transform their businesses. So that keeps coming up in conversation. It's like, I have to do X by the end of the year. And it's a lot of this is like, you know, they're talking about infinite numbers of scale, right? Changing and redefining what their organizations look like. How do they behave? How do they service customers? And so a lot of transformation in these organizations in very short periods of time. And obviously they're gonna have to lean in technology to get that done. So I think that there is a lot of like, I want to learn from those that have the experience doing this. And so I love to see that. Don't try to figure it out on your own. I always tell people, I'm like, ask for help and like learn from experienced leaders. So definitely a lot of that, like I wanna figure out how do I do this? And then a lot of obviously desire and trying to figure out like, well, how does technology play a part in that? And what is the right tech for me? So I think for this event, honestly, if you are, you know, a content provider, whether you're a speaker or something like that, or you're a sponsor in the expo hall, you're all going to get tons of value as well as the attendees. I think it's just a really beautiful mix of like need and then obviously giving everybody what they have to be successful.
Love it. I love it. And I agree. You're right. There's just like, there is so much stuff going on in our space and in our industry every freaking week, every single month, every single quarter that take some time to learn from other professionals that have either already done it or they've maybe had like, maybe not the exact problem or the exact challenge, but they went through something that kind of showed them a bunch of different things or a bunch of different ways forward.
But then network, and then ask 100%. Them, and then give them a little taste of what you're going through. And I guarantee you they'll have a perspective. It's not the same thing. You're going to learn more. So I think it's just all around a great opportunity for folks to network and learn and to really do their research. Is a great time for this.
Totally agree. Well, guys, this is so number one. Kristi, thank you so much for popping
in,
guys.
Fun.
I literally grabbed Kristi and like, Kristi, get in here. We're going to go do a mini episode. But thank you so much for joining us. And then if you're down for it, I'd love to check in on day 2 because we got a whole bunch more stuff coming. And there's like way more speakers, presenters, a bunch of awesome stuff coming down the pipe. So thank you so much for joining us. And I'm looking forward to spending more time with you during the event this week.
Sounds great. Thanks so much.